she asked the guy next door to her, "Have you got children? If you've got children, would you let them see her like this?" He said, "Yeah, I've got children, they'd love her."
Hey, speaking of City Boy, those pants are from out of this world, Dorothy. Look at Kurt Browning's pants.
Tell me about what you're wearing right here.
Well, yeah, this is a bona fide cat suit. I will catch you with my tail.
Rubber. Over the past 2 centuries, it's been used as clothing because of its waterproofing qualities. But how did this become a fetish? How did this material evolve from a simple plant sap to an ever-expanding community of individuals who enjoy gearing up? In this video, we're going to take a look at how this material and the enthusiast community surrounding it has changed and adapted over time. Latex sap is found in many different plants. This is mainly used as a defense mechanism against insects, with the gummy sap clogging up insects' mouths and making them unable to eat the plant. There are many varieties of plants which contain latex sap, including milkweed and dandelion. However, the most common plant used for rubber production is the Hevea brasiliensis. Before beginning, we need to discuss the origins of rubber and how it has evolved across the centuries. Our story begins in Mesoamerica, dating all the way back to 1600 BC. Rubber was used by the Maya, Aztec, and Olmec in order to make clothing and containers waterproof. This was done by combining latex sap with textiles. In fact, the name Olmec loosely translates to rubber people. The Olmecs also had a famous ball game made from rubber, which was called Ulma. In 1736, French explorer Charles-Marie de la Condamine would be one of the first Europeans to experience this new material. In 1751, he presented the first scientific paper on rubber in the scientific journal Malim des Académiques des Sciences. In this, he discovered one of rubber's most popular properties, rubbed out or erasing pencil marks off paper. Hence, the name rubber was associated with the material. Throughout the 18th and 19th century, more discoveries were made about the material, such as the use of turpentine and naphtha as solvents for rubber. This allowed for global rubber trade to develop, as the latex sap could now be transported long distances without spoiling. With more experimentation in rubber development, it was Charles Makintosh who patented the process of easily creating waterproof clothing in June of 1823. This process used a solution of rubber soaked in naphtha soaked between 2 layers of cloth. These early raincoats were crude by today's standards. They would melt if the weather was too hot and crack when too cold. While Makintosh was not the first person to create waterproof fabric, his design made the manufacturing of latex-infused cloth the first to be commercially viable. The Makintosh raincoat is now considered to be the starting point of the rubber fetish community.
The people that have come in from the Makintosh Society actually just wear rubber Makintoshes. It's really strange that the whole thing can revolve around like one garment almost. We have their magazines, which are all just really Makintosh orientated, about little stories, skits about somebody who'd see a young girl in a rubber Makintosh getting onto a school bus. It's all on fantasy level, really.
In 1839, Charles Goodyear developed the vulcanization process. This would combine rubber with other materials like sulfur and later silicone, making the material much more durable. It also gave rubber its elasticity, making it a desirable material for use in car tires, shoes, and of course, clothes. With the flexibility provided from the vulcanization process, the first rubber condoms were produced in 1855. However, these were made from molded rubber and required a doctor to measure the man's penis for ordering the correct size. It wouldn't be until the 1920s when the Young's Rubber Company developed the first modern latex condom called the Trojan. These were thinner and more flexible than previous rubber condoms, with an advertised shelf life of around 5 years. In 1932, the modern latex condom would expand into Europe with the company Durex. During this time, rubber trade was heavily restricted, with South America being the only source for the material. However, in 1876, Henry Wickham smuggled 7,000 para rubber tree seeds from Brazil and brought them to the Kew Gardens in England. These seeds would later be distributed to India, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and Malaysia. These areas are now the world's biggest suppliers of rubber in the modern day. It wasn't until World War I and World War II that rubber production really began to revolutionize. Rubber was used in tanks, gas masks, lifeboats, planes, and more. Not to mention, the wires in every electronic device were insulated with rubber. This caused the price of rubber to rise greatly and led to the development of synthetic rubber from petroleum. This included neoprene, created by DuPont scientists on April 17, 1930. After World War II, latex clothing development started to improve rapidly. Even though rubber had been worn for the past century, the research and development from war efforts led to latex becoming much more lightweight and flexible into the 1950s. This led to the fashion industry adopting the material for more fashionable raincoat designs during the 50s and 60s. The mid-1950s also saw the introduction of the modern wetsuit using neoprene, with the company Body Glove forming in 1953.
People who like to feel even more restricted than I am at the moment go in for lots of wrist straps, ankle straps, more straps around the waist and possibly around the thighs with additional chains and so on. It all makes it more fun, all makes it a bit more restrictive.
Soon, an underground fetish scene began to emerge. The first true instance of this was in 1957 with the creation of Atom Age. This company was started by John Sutcliffe, who originally intended to make waterproof clothing for lady pillion riders. Originally, this clothing was made out of a combination of vinyl and leather, but John soon began experimenting on making clothing out of PVC and rubber. John soon found that many of his garments were being used not for protection, but for pleasure. He responded to this by making one of the first rubber catsuits. With the ever-increasing popularity, in the winter of 1972, the first issue of Atom Age magazine was released. These magazines would contain images of people enjoying their rubber gear. They also featured articles about various rubber topics, such as how to properly care for your gear, describing experiences in gear, and answering questions that the readers had mailed in. These magazines became so successful that issues would continue to be released until 1985. During this time, several other magazines and pornographic literature like Smooth, Rubber Life, Accord, and Relate began appearing during the 70s and 80s. This introduced more people to the idea of latex fetishism. These featured images of people fully covered in the material and provided avenues for enthusiasts to purchase their own fetish clothing. Another manufacturer to note is German company Latexa, established in 1967. This was one of the only manufacturers from this time period which still exists today. At the time, Latexa was one of the only manufacturers specializing in latex accessories, such as hoods, gloves, stockings, and other pieces of rubber clothing. During this time, the gay scene was also beginning its discovery of rubber. On December 17, 1964, the first gay rubber club was organized in New York City by Elliot Howard and Bud Herr. It was originally called the Five Senses, but this name was changed to V Senses, which was in business until 1973. It was a small club with only around 25 members. At the same time, London's Rubber Men's Club saw mild success with similar membership rates in the rubber fetish community. As the punk scene began to take hold in the 70s, latex clothing became prevalent as a representation of sex and nonconformity. English punk band the Sex Pistols worked closely with London shop Let It Rock, which would later be changed to the name Sex in 1975. Working with fashion designer Vivienne Westwood, the store promoted punk clothing with a heavy focus on leather and latex. In 1979, the New World Rubbermen Club was formed, which proved to be a very successful way of having men keep in touch internationally about the rubber interest. This was done mainly through the club's newsletter, Rubber Sheets, which contained photos, stories, places to purchase gear, and a listing of club members. Compared to other publications like Atom Age, this was very basic, being typed on a typewriter and Xerox copied to all of its members. The club newsletters would periodically list the names, addresses, and gear interests of its members. This proved to be the best way of finding new rubber playmates during the 80s. This organization would continue into the 90s with the initiation of the Mr. International Rubber event being formed in 1996. During this time, the internet also began to expand beyond government and university institutions. With the development of Usenet in 1980, people could start discussions about pretty much any topic, including sexual fetishes. However, many of the organizations hosting Usenet servers would eventually ban and remove this content, making it lost to time. Looking at a news article from 1995, however, we can see what groups were once publicly available on Usenet. These include latex, leather, and furries.
Shaping up your video is as easy as this with the HR7100 video recorder from JVC.
During the 80s, another technological boom would aid in the spread of the rubber scene. With VHS becoming hugely successful, pornographic videos became cheaper and easier than ever to shoot and produce. With this, more and more risque films involving latex began to appear. In a lot of these earlier pornographic movies, rubber was treated more like a prop, but as time went on, rubber gear began to take more of the spotlight. This would continue into the 90s with popular videos such as Imprisoned in Rubber, made in 1996. Into the 90s, even more publications about latex began to appear. Remember Atom Age? Well, it had another spin-off publication called Atom Age Rubberist. After John Sutcliffe's death in 1987, Shiny magazine purchased the rights to the Rubberist title. Shiny continued to release publications from the mid-80s into the late 1990s through several rubber-related publications. These include Shiny International, Dressing for Pleasure, and a continuation of the Rubberist title. Another famous magazine was Rubber Rebel, first released in May of 1993. This was mainly focused on the gay rubber community with the famous mascot Rubber Rebel. In addition to having naughty pictures, gear for sale, and articles about clothing, Rubber Rebel magazine has been credited with starting the trend of using liquid latex. The use of liquid latex became so popular that in April of 1997, the first episode of HBO's Sex Bites exclusively covered the topic of liquid latex. More modern rubber manufacturers also started appearing around this time. In 1989, London latex clothing brand Libdex was formed. This brand has become internationally famous for its latex lingerie and catsuits, and even worked with Vivienne Westwood from the 1975 store Sex. Over in Germany, rubber manufacturer Blackstyle was founded in 1992. Today they are Germany's biggest manufacturer of handmade latex clothing. Another manufacturer formed in 1992 was Invincible Rubber, started by David Eintz. Like many of these other manufacturers, Invincible grew from a home-based operation into a global latex clothing business. In 1994, the rubber community received its first unifying symbol in the form of the rubber pride flag. This was created by Peter Tullos and Scott Motes as a means to identifying like-minded men and reflects the sensory, sensual, and mental passion we have for rubber. According to Wikipedia, the black represents our lust for the look and feel for shiny black rubber. The red represents our blood passion for rubber and rubbermen, and the yellow represents our drive for intense rubber play and fantasies. The V-shaped chevron is also meant to represent kinkiness, however, other sources claim it represents the V-Senses Club, discussed earlier. As described by Peter Tullos, as a group, gays, especially fetishists, remain under attack, so any effort to get us together can only help us fend off such incursions into our freedom to be free-thinking adults. Promulgating that symbol helps to develop community. Speaking of community, other more localized rubber groups and events began to appear in great number. To name a few, French rubber club Mex en Catholic was formed in 1994 with the newsletter Plan K started in 1998. This would be in circulation until 2009. The Boston Leather Knights also formed the title Mr. Vulcan Rubber in 1992, which led to the creation of the Boston Rubber Club in 1994. In Germany, the Rub Club organization was also formed, which continues to this day. However, this group is probably most known not for their contests, but for their porn. In Vancouver, Canada, the first Rub-Out event was held on March 1992. Rub-Out was started by Bill Houghton, who organized the event from 1992 to 2003. The event continues to this day, with the upcoming Rub-Out 27 event being held on the weekend of March 23, 2018. In 1996, the first Mr. International Rubber event was held at the bar Cell Block, located in Chicago. The creation of this event involved several different rubber organizations. Over in Boston, the Mr. Vulcan Rubber event had hit a dry patch. In fact, Ryan Johnson, the winner from 1994, had his title extended into 1995 and again in 96. According to Ryan, "I feared that the Mr. Vulcan Rubber title was going to fade into just a memory. I promoted the title for nearly 3 years to keep it alive and relevant. Walking away just wasn't an option." So, Ryan approached the Boston Leather Knights about moving the contest to Chicago. Ryan also collaborated with John Ferrari, who was a member of the Chicago Hellfire Club, the New World Rubbermen, and Rainbow MC. It was through this connection that Ryan and the Leather Knights were able to team up with the newly formed Men of Rubber in Chicago group to gain their sponsorship for the creation of the Rubber Blowout Weekend. In 1997, the event was officially renamed to Mr. International Rubber. Originally, this was a one-night event, but MIR quickly expanded into a several-day affair which attracts rubbermen from all over the world. The event hosts a variety of rubber vendors, allows for people to sell their used gear, contains educational panels, and has a demo area where people can try all sorts of rubber fetish gear. MIR is another event which continues to this day. The 22nd MIR event will be held on the weekend of November 9th, 2018. 1996 also saw the creation of latexpajamas.com, established by Squirm. This contained the Rubber Lovers contact list, which was a static webpage listing the names, gear interests, and email addresses of men in the rubber community. Because digital cameras weren't yet commonplace, members would often mail their picture to Squirm, which he would scan and manually add to their listing. This site would continue until 2002, with the creation of rubberlist.com taking it over. This was one of the first modern rubber dating websites where users could make their own profile, post pictures, and participate in forum discussions about latex. In 1997, a completely separate website, rubbermen.com, was also created. This site was essentially an online magazine featuring original content submitted by its readers. It also contained some very hot rubber pornography videos, such as The Assimilation. Since both Rubbermen and Rubberlist catered to the same group of people, a collaboration was born. Through these combined efforts, in 2005, the website rubberzone.com was launched. While this website still heavily relied on the original Rubberlist source code, Rubberzone now featured the Rubbermen magazine. This magazine offers a variety of latex pictures, comics, fantasy stories, and even video. The website is still seeing active members to this day and continues to periodically release issues of Rubbermen magazine for its members. Another popular website was gearfetish.com, created during the early 90s. This website was another great source for meeting people of all types of gear interests, and there are still plenty of pictures online flagging the gear fetish watermark. However, in 2015, the website was unceremoniously taken offline. It's unclear whether the site will return. Several private interests have attempted to purchase the website, however, it still remains offline. In 2000, the website recon.com was created by London-based company T101. The site was originally called trackies.com, but it expanded quickly and it became one of the largest gay fetish websites currently on the internet. Recon is one of the few fetish websites to offer a smartphone application which uses the phone's GPS to find other members in your geographic area. The most recent website is fetlife.com, created in 2008. This site is available to anyone both gay and straight. It offers connections to any fetish, and rubber is actually a minority compared to the other groups on here, but it's still a great place for finding local kinky events and groups. come a long way since the Makintosh raincoats and mailing lists of the past. Nowadays, almost everyone is discovering the rubber community through an online social media platform. Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr, there is no shortage of online communities being used by the rubber community. Rubber clothing styles are also now more diverse than ever. In the past, rubber was mainly in the colors black, red, and natural. But now, rubber is available in every color under the sun. Some manufacturers, like Latex 101, formed in 2006, even offer laser cut designs. This allows for some amazing patterns and designs on the clothing. So, where does this leave us today? Well, according to groups like the American Psychiatric Association, sexual fetishism, until recently, was classified as a mental disorder. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, fetishism is described as a sexual arousal from non-living objects lasting at least 6 months. However, groups such as the Revise F65 Project and the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom have come about. These groups have been very successful in changing professional opinions for the classification of a fetishist disorder. As latex and rubber are shown more and more in public media such as movies, TV shows, and music videos, the public will certainly grow more accepting to the fetish community. This is a trend I predict will expand into the future as latex fetishism becomes more normalized and embraced. Well, this has been my video on the history of latex fetishism. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of love and work went into this video between writing a script, doing all the research, finding pictures and video, and then editing it all together. It's taken me over 2 months, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Just an honorable mention, I really want to thank the Leather Archives and Museum. They're located over in Chicago. If you're ever visiting Chicago, I definitely recommend checking them out. They are a fantastic resource for anything kinky, and really I'm just scratching the surface with what they have to offer. I have content for multiple videos in the future, which I may do. Really just a fantastic way to preserve kink culture and history for future generations. So consider donating to them because they're a fantastic source. I also want to thank the artist Byrocratic. All the music that you heard in this video was from his production, so if you're a fan of the future beat genre, I definitely recommend checking him out. I have a link to his Bandcamp in the video description. And then finally, if you are interested in learning more about all of these topics that I covered and going more in depth, I'm going to have a PDF link in the video description that you can download, which has a list to all the sources used in this video. So I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something new, and I'll see y'all in the next video.